Have you ever noticed something strange about aging legs? A lot of people walk every single day, sometimes for years, and yet stairs still get harder. Getting out of a chair still gets slower. Balance still gets shakier. And the question is, if walking is supposed to be the gold standard of healthy movement, why do so many older adults who walk regularly still feel like their legs are getting weaker? That question matters because it gets right to the heart of a very common misunderstanding. Walking is excellent. I want to say that clearly right at the beginning. It is good for your heart, good for circulation, good for your mood, good for blood sugar regulation, and good for keeping you active. This is not an anti-walking video. Walking is one of the best habits a person can have. But walking and leg strengthening are not the same thing. And that distinction is where almost all the confusion begins. What I want to do today is walk you through what your legs are actually losing as you age, why walking doesn't fully replace that loss, and why one very simple exercise done on a bed can target something that ordinary walking often leaves behind. And once you understand the mechanics of that, the title of this video is going to make complete sense. Because the answer is not random. It is not one of those secret exercise no one talks about claims. It is just a very practical movement that matches the real job your legs have to do every day. And just to keep this clear, this video is general educational information. It is not personal medical advice, not a diagnosis, and not a treatment plan. My goal here is to help you understand the body a little better so you can see why this particular exercise matters. So, let's build it from the ground up. The first thing you need to understand is that the problem most older adults are noticing is not simply movement loss. It is force loss. It is power loss. It is the slow decline in your ability to produce enough muscle tension, fast enough, to do real-life tasks safely and confidently. That decline has a name: sarcopenia. Age-related muscle loss. Muscle mass and muscle strength generally rise through early life, peak somewhere around the 30s, and then gradually begin to decline. Later in life, that decline speeds up. And it does not just mean you have slightly smaller muscles. It means you produce less force. It means you have less reserve. It means everyday movements start demanding a larger percentage of what your body is capable of. That is the part people feel. A chair that used to require 30% of your effort now asks for 50. A flight of stairs that used to be automatic now feels like work. Catching your balance after a misstep becomes more difficult, not because you forgot how to walk, but because your system has less power available when the moment arrives. Now here is where walking gets misunderstood. Walking is primarily a repetitive endurance activity. It is rhythmic. It is submaximal. It is efficient by design. Your body becomes good at doing the same low to moderate effort over and over again. That is excellent for cardiovascular fitness. But if the goal is to tell muscle, you need to get stronger. The signal has to be stronger than the signal walking usually provides. Muscle responds to demand. If you ask it for the same comfortable output every day, it gets efficient at that output. It does not necessarily build extra strength just because the movement is healthy. This is one of the most important principles in exercise physiology, and it explains why someone can be a very consistent walker and still struggle with standing up, climbing stairs, or lifting themselves after a low seat. Walking maintains movement. Strength training challenges capacity. Those are not identical. And this is the part I really want you to hold on to. The movements that matter most for independence in older age are not just, can you move? They are, can you produce enough force when you need it? Can you stand up from the toilet without using both hands? Can you get out of bed smoothly? Can you control yourself going downstairs? Can you recover if you trip? Can you keep your stride from getting shorter and shorter every year? Those are force questions. Those are power questions. Those are muscle questions. In fact, some of the most useful research in older adults shows that performance in sit-to-stand type movements is closely related to walking ability. That makes intuitive sense if you think about it. Standing up is not a single muscle event. It is a coordinated demand involving your hips, your thighs, your trunk, your balance system, and your ability to transfer force into the ground. Walking depends on many of those same systems. If rising from a chair is getting weaker, walking often follows. There is another important piece here, and it has to do with where weakness tends to show up. A lot of people think leg strength means only the front of the thigh. The quadriceps get all the attention. And yes, they matter. But the muscles behind you matter just as much, and often more than people realize. Your glutes, your hamstrings, your hip extensors. These are the muscles that help you stand tall, push the body forward, stabilize the pelvis, control stride length, and generate the kind of force that stairs, transfers, and balance recovery all depend on. When those muscles weaken, a very specific pattern starts to appear. Steps become smaller. The body leans more. Standing up becomes more of a heave than a smooth lift, and walking may still be possible, but it becomes less powerful, less stable, and less efficient. Now think about what ordinary walking asks from those muscles. Yes, the glutes and hips are involved. Of course they are, but often not at a high enough level to rebuild what is being lost with age, especially if the walk is slow, flat, and comfortable. Again, that is not bad. Comfortable walking is still valuable. But comfortable walking is not the same as a meaningful strength stimulus. So, if walking is not enough by itself, what kind of movement fills in the gap? If I had to pick one bed exercise for stronger senior legs, the one I would put at the top is the bridge. More specifically, the simple bed bridge, done lying on your back, with your knees bent and feet planted. Not ankle circles, not random leg kicks, not just sliding the heel around. The bridge. And the reason is deeper than it works the legs. The bridge trains one of the most underappreciated patterns in older adults. Hip extension. Hip extension is what happens when you drive the hips upward and forward. It is the movement pattern behind getting up from a chair, climbing, standing taller, and generating push from the backside of the body, instead of collapsing into the lower back or relying only on the knees. When you do a bridge, you press your feet down, engage the glutes and hamstrings, and lift the pelvis. That sounds simple, and it is simple, but biologically, it is doing something important. It is asking the backside of the body to wake up and produce force on purpose. That matters, because the backside is often exactly what fades first in modern life. People sit more, they take shorter steps. They use chairs with armrests. They move, but they do not always extend the hips forcefully. Over time, the body becomes more quad-dominant, more cautious, more forward-folded. The glutes stop contributing as much as they should. And once that happens, the knees and lower back often end up doing extra work they were never meant to do alone. It strengthens the glutes, which are the largest muscles in the body and some of the most important for upright movement. It also recruits the hamstrings, which help with hip extension and stability, and it involves the trunk, because the pelvis has to stay controlled rather than wobbling or twisting. So in one movement, you are not just working the legs, you are rebuilding the force line between the feet, hips, and torso. That is why this exercise punches above its weight. And there is another reason it is so useful for older adults specifically. It reduces the fear barrier. A lot of people know they need strengthening work, but the moment the conversation turns into squats, lunges, machines, or getting down onto the floor, they mentally check out. The exercise may be excellent, but if it feels inaccessible, it never becomes a habit. The bridge has a different entry point. It can be done on a firm bed. It feels supported. It feels less threatening. And because it starts from a lying position, many people are able to focus on muscle activation without also worrying about balance. That makes consistency more likely. And consistency is where strength begins. Now, I want to be careful here, because when people hear best exercise, they sometimes imagine a miracle movement. There is no miracle movement. One exercise cannot replace a complete program forever, but there are certain exercises that give you more return than others, especially when the goal is to start simply, train safely, and build the exact kind of strength that carries into daily life. The bridge is one of those exercises. Let me tell you what makes a good bridge, because the details matter. The movement starts with both feet planted and knees bent. From there, the goal is not to fling the hips upward as high as possible. The goal is to create a controlled lift by pressing through the feet and tightening through the glutes. Think about lifting from the hips, not arching from the lower back. That distinction is everything. If the lower back is doing all the work, the target is being missed. If the shoulders are tense, the neck is strained, and the hips shoot up while the ribs flare, the movement has lost its point. A good bridge feels deliberate. The hips rise, the backside engages, the body pauses briefly at the top, then it lowers with control. That lowering phase matters more than most people realize. Muscles do not only respond when they shorten, they also respond when they control the descent. So, the down phase is not just the way back to the start, it is part of the training. A common beginner structure might look like a few slow repetitions, a short hold at the top, and then a gradual build over time. Not because more is always better, but because the body adapts when the demand is repeated consistently. And the progression is elegant. At first, the exercise simply teaches the hips to participate again. Then it builds endurance in those muscles. Then it can build more force. Then it can be progressed with longer holds, slower lowering, or even single leg variations for people who are ready. A very simple movement becomes scalable. That is part of what makes it so smart. Now let's connect this back to walking, because that is the heart of the title. Walking asks your body to repeat a cycle. The bridge asks your body to generate force. Walking gives you steps. The bridge gives you push. Walking keeps you moving. The bridge helps restore what makes movement feel strong. And if stronger glutes and hip extensors improve the ability to stand, stabilize, and propel the body, then you start to understand why this exercise can change how walking feels, even though it is not walking itself. That is the real point. Sometimes, the best way to improve a movement is not to repeat it endlessly. It is to strengthen the muscles that movement depends on. This is true all over the body. And it is especially true in older legs. There is also something psychologically powerful about regaining strength in a place where many people first notice loss: the bed. The bed is where the day begins and ends. It is where weakness can feel most obvious: rolling, lifting, repositioning, getting upright. When one simple movement in that space starts feeling easier, the improvement feels real. It is not abstract. It shows up immediately in ordinary life. That matters for motivation, because motivation is rarely built by being told what is healthy. Motivation is built by feeling a difference. So, if someone is walking every day and still wondering why their legs do not feel stronger, the answer is not that walking failed. The answer is that walking was never designed to do the entire job by itself. Your legs do not only need motion, they need resistance. They do not only need repetition, they need recruitment. They do not only need mileage, they need muscle. And the bridge is such a valuable starting point because it gives that signal without demanding a gym, a machine, or a complicated setup. Let me close with this. Aging does not usually announce itself all at once. It shows up in subtler ways first. You use the railing more. You hesitate before stairs. You push off the armrest. You shorten your stride without realizing it. And because those changes happen gradually, people often assume they are unavoidable. Some of them are common, that is true, but common is not the same as untouchable. The body is adaptive for much longer than people think. Even later in life, muscles respond when you finally give them a clear reason to respond. Not chaos, not punishment, just a clear signal. This matters. Wake up, work, get stronger. That is what the bridge does. So, yes, keep walking. Absolutely, keep walking. Walk for your heart, your mood, your circulation, your energy, your routine. But if your goal is stronger senior legs, do not stop there. Add the thing walking often cannot provide on its own. Add force. Add hip drive. Add intention. And if you want one simple place to begin, begin with the bridge. If this video changed how you think about walking and strength, subscribe to the channel. And if you want, leave a comment telling me which everyday movement feels hardest right now: stairs, chairs, balance, or getting out of bed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.